Yes, welcome. It is us again for another episode of the SLT podcast.
What?
We got the full team in today. So we have, let's go with ladies first. We have Miss Johnson over here.
Back in the game.
Morning, morning.
Come on. We have
Scrolling the gram.
Mr. Crawford.
Come on.
And we have myself, Mr. Moore. You know what I'm all about.
More education.
Yeah, you know the thing. You'll see the ad, so on and so
That's
forth.
it.
All right.
You know the thing. You see the ad.
Thank you for following. We've got quite a few followers. You know, we need to get out there. So please make sure you are subscribing, you're liking, you're sharing, because come on now, this isn't your everyday podcast. This isn't your everyday people. You're not going to get this kind of content. So let's share this content, get it out there, and really start to have different types of conversations. Because I tend to find that the conversations are quite samey often within the community. So let's get this content out there. But we're gonna change it up today, where we're gonna approach some questions, some parent questions. We've got some parent questions who they would like them addressed by from our perspective, from an SLT perspective. So let's see how we would tackle these pertinent questions. So these have actually come in from me from More Education. I put some stuff out and some parents answered some questions. So over to you, Miss Johnson. Go to our first question. What's our first parent question?
Okay, so I am a dad and I am co-parenting with the mother of my child. She is a great mum and we get on well, but as my son is becoming a teenager, he doesn't listen to her. He doesn't engage in extracurricular tuition and she doesn't force him because it will result in an argument. What can I do? So quite a few things there.
Yeah, there's quite a few things there. Yeah, it'd be good to see.
Why are you looking at me?
No, I'm looking at you because you're so handsome. That's why. I would say, yeah, that teenage transition point, specifically for boys. I know when they go from like year 9 to year 10, they almost go from like babies. These like really cute. They go away for the summer and they're like really cute, and then they come back these testosterone filled monsters, and it can be quite challenging for single parents, particularly mums. Most single parents being mums, and it's good that he is supportive and he's aware of the issues, and they are trying. But I don't know, Mr. Crawford, what do you think? What are your thoughts?
Disclaimer: I don't have any kids, so I don't feel as qualified to speak on this. Question I have: why can he not just mandate extracurricular activities as the dad?
I think what the issue is there with him is he has mandated them, but because the mum has the majority of the care, so he may pay for them. He may say, "Can we do them?" But the implementation of it or the execution of it kind of comes down to
Go and get him.
what you saying
Go
as a
and get
dad.
You play football. You play football. You train once a week. You have a game on the weekends.
Yeah,
Go and get him.
yeah.
I'm coming to get you on Wednesday after school, and I'm going to take you to football training. This is not negotiable. And then on Sundays, I'm coming to pick you up and going to take you to your match. This is not negotiable. Why can't he do that? Why? If the issue that you have is the enforcement from his mum's perspective, why can you not then enforce it?
If I'm going to play devil's advocate as a parent, yeah, and you see like even your tone, your body language, it's giving toxic. You with me? It's giving.
It's a bit extreme.
No, this is just what I've encountered. You with me? Like I know my parenting style, and I've seen parenting styles that are what we may call old school. You with me? Like in that you haven't given the child much choice. You haven't negotiated and offered a solution. The child may clearly have said that's not what they enjoy, and you're going against the child's kind of rights.
Boy.
And in my experience in looking at a range of different parenting methods, genuinely that's kind of giving kind of domineering, toxic type vibes.
When you say toxic,
in that toxic, in that we traditionally, and when I say we, African Caribbean homes, the child doesn't have much of a voice. Like the child's voice or the voice of the child is not center ground, and that is very accepted. You do as you say, not as you see. I can't remember
with
what I said.
fundamental things, yeah. Because I thought that was the consensus. I didn't think that was up for discussion. That adults are entrusted for the well-being and development of their offspring. I thought that was like a universally understood thing. So some fundamental aspects of their life cannot be led up to you. And I say this all the time to kids. Again, I'll disclaim that I don't have kids, but when I work with children in schools, and I say this to kids all the time: do what you need, not what you want. Like, no successful person operates off desire; they operate off necessity and what's in their best interests. And often, what's in your best interest is not what's necessarily good for you in the moment. Like, does anybody really want to go to school? No, but you do it because you have to. I say this to the kids all the time. I wake up at 5 a.m. and do yoga every morning. Nobody really wants to do yoga at 5 a.m., but you do it because the consequences are not worth it.
Yeah.
Like, no one, same thing with gym. Nobody really likes banging gym, but you go to the gym because of what it gives
The
you.
benefits, yeah.
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 If you give kids more time, if you give kids an option, they're going to eat fast food all the time and just play the games and play on social media, even though we know that's not in their best interests. So some things we have to mandate.
But then I would say, throw this out to Miss Johnson, or so how as a parent then do you find that balance between toxic, like feeling you have to impose and force something upon them, and
Good question.
their choice? Because I think a lot of parents struggle with that balance. And I would say specifically parents of African Caribbean backgrounds, especially if you would have come from that type of background where you were forced, like doctor, lawyer, you're going to, and now you've had children and you maybe don't want to replicate that kind of stuff. What do you think the balance would be?
So, firstly, I disagree with your use of the word toxic. I don't think that it's toxic. I think that's just one of those words that are just overused these days.
They're ganging up against me. We were like 5 minutes in and they're ganging up. Right, whatever, innit?
No, because you're fine. There are some things, like you said, that are non-negotiable. That's not demonstrative of a toxic relationship. I think that, times have changed whereby, like you said, children have a voice. In our day, we didn't have a voice. You did as you were told, and children were seen and not heard. But I think you've got to find the balance. What I found interesting about this is when he says that the son doesn't listen to the mum, because I see this quite often. I think, for boys, the relationship with their mum is like their first relationship, obviously not romantic, but with a woman. And then they reach adolescence and they're trying to find their space in the world, and they're trying to carve out this masculine form. And suddenly it's like, well, the person who I would run to if I scraped my knee, or who would give me cuddles, I don't want that anymore. So they try to cut the apron strings, and it becomes quite contentious. And mums don't know how to deal with it, and equally sons don't really want to engage. So I think for this person that's posed this question, that might be something that's worth exploring, because I think they might need to, if it always ends up in an argument when she's telling him to do stuff, they might need to repair that relationship before trying to get him to extracurricular.
Oh, so like be the conduit between mum and son.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think. Sorry to jump in. I just keep coming back to the responsibility. Who does the responsibility fall on there? And it sounds like to me that as the father, you can play a little bit more of a role. Sounds like to me.
I see. Interesting, because I agree with you, but it's always going to be limited if you're not in the yard. You with me? If you're if you're excuse the colloquialisms, sorry. If you're not living in the house, if you're not living in the house with the youths, yeah, or with the youth,
Says in the yard. Let me say house with the you.
I am what I am. Innit?
Unapologetic.
I
Get me?
can't see how you can have that impact. It would be very, very difficult. It can be very, very difficult to have the type of impact that you want to have on that child if you don't live with.
I understand.
It's doable though.
Don't get me wrong. Like it was doable. Like my I saw my parents. I didn't live in a house with my dad, but my dad had a certain amount of gravitas and control
Like enforced.
within within the home, within the family home. Yeah.
In one's abode.
And then lad.
Yes. So I am aware that it's possible, but I don't really see it as much nowadays. I don't really see where in this even you see how you struggle with the term toxic. I struggle with the term co-parenting. Yeah, it's a term, a modern day term that I haven't quite been able to wrap my head around. Within this co-parenting space, there always comes a time for discipline, and there needs to be an element of harshness within that, which 9 times out of 10 will come from the father. However, you see the memes on kind of Instagram where they'll say like a mum's been shouting at the kid all day and the dad shouts at the kid once and mum's in the corner bawling like, oh my God, how could you talk to my child like that? That's in a married dynamic. In a co-parenting dynamic where the child tends to live with the mother, therefore the mother has an increased level of authority over the child. When the dad tries to impose a level of authority over the child, it becomes problematic.
In what sense?
In that, as opposed to it being a joint effort to discipline the child, the mother sees it as almost an affront to her authority,
And so
which therefore causes conflict between mother and father.
So in that context, would you say that the mum would take issue with him trying to enforce extracurricular activities?
Yes, because what it would take to enforce the extracurricular activities is that same level of, and I was being facetious when I said it, toxicity, authority and harshness, which mothers tend not to feel 110% comfortable with. Even in a home where they both are and they're both on the same agenda and it's a married home. Yeah. If it's coming from a co-parenting home where you both have 2 different agendas and then you're coming in with that, the person with the most amount of authority tends to be the person who the child lives with, who would be the mother. If to get that child to go to football means me coming in, yo, Rare, where's your boots? Are they clean? Are you ready? Get up. Blah, blah, blah. That makes mum uncomfortable because of the level of authority and harshness in which you're coming in.
And how much is that relevant? How much is the mum's discomfort relevant?
I mean, that sounds quite callous because she.
That's why I paused. I was like, I'm not going to answer.
Because
in this context, how relevant is that?
Because if she's the main caregiver, you can't just
Dismiss.
rock up and be like this authoritative figure on a Wednesday and a Sunday, and then she's got to deal with the fallout for the rest of the week.
Who you then may have an issue with anyway.
But is this going to be a battle or is it not going to be a battle? If we're trying to change the habits and routines of an individual, an adolescent individual, an unstable human being, we have to accept that this is going to be a battle. And I'll can I not just say I'll play this role?
So if it's a battle, then who are the two? What are the 2 sides?
What do you mean the 2 sides?
It's a battle. You've used the term battle.
Essentially,
Okay.
because you're having to change behaviours.
If you've naturally you've got the child on one side and the parents on the other side, yeah?
Yeah.
If it's in a co-parenting situation and the mother is the main caregiver and lives with the child, and then you're on top of that, you have that deep emotional connection to the child, the mother will always, whether she likes it or not, naturally fall on the child's side.
even if I'm taking him quote unquote off your hands for 2 days a week, and then I'm developing him to a place where
I don't think she can. I think it's entwined into her DNA.
Oh my gosh, these statements that have been thrown around today are just wild.
Hold on. For a mother to be protective of her child, that's all I'm saying. A mum is naturally. If a mother,
you man are joke parents.
if a mother,
sorry, not you too.
Wait,
but I'm
wait,
finding it really difficult to understand. Sorry to cut across, but I'm finding it really difficult to understand that two human beings cannot mandate or at least encourage or persuade a child to go and do something as engaging and interactive and beneficial to them.
Before I go to your statement, I want to go to your statement. If a woman, if it is not entwined into a woman's DNA to protect a child dies. Remember, for the first for the first X amount of years, that child's useless. Without the love and care of a mother, that child dies. So they have to be. It is woven into that mother's DNA to protect the child. If that mother then sees a threat, which sometimes can be the dad,
it's innate.
It's innate. Them can't help it. So it's not personal. You with me? It's what they do. And even though logically what you're saying is like, yo, we're gonna have to, in order to pattern up this youth, we're gonna have to be a bit.
Reed disagrees with that.
Go on then, Reno. Let's. Today's SLT podcast is sponsored by none other than More Education, the UK's leading online black-owned supplementary service.
Guaranteed grades. Sorry.
Guaranteed grades. All your money back.
Oh my God.
I love that. Tell us about the guaranteed grades,
Guaranteed grades, 6s, 7s, 8s. Don't watch that. You getting it?
All right. I didn't say it. I didn't say it. But make sure, if you want to find out where your child is, what's happening with your child, how we can support, we've got amazing facilities. Log on to moreeducation.co.uk. And at the moment, we are doing an offer for £47. You can have an assessment, so we can tell you exactly what your child's doing in maths and English, where they are, what they need to improve on, and a consultation where you get to sit down with me and I discuss how to plot the next steps of your child's road to success. Log on moreeducation.co.uk. What do we say?
Guaranteed grades.
Let's see what you have to say.
So I'm not a fan of sweeping statements that all of one group is this way or this is applicable to. With my safeguarding hat on, I can categorically tell you in no uncertain terms that being protective of children is not intertwined in every single mother's DNA.
No, obvious.
That is what you said. No, but it's not obvious because that is what you said. Is the first thing. Okay. The second thing is...
Point one.
The second thing is, he said... She's a great mum and we get on well. So I just think the solution is for them to form a united front. This whole battling... Yeah,
that's what he said.
But
a united front against the youth.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then you were like, oh, she's going to take umbrage to that he's now getting involved and he's saying, well, I'm going to take him.
And the reason why I say that is because of the co-parenting situation and who the youth tends to be with more time. If it was in a married house... and the two parents have sat down and they've decided, all right, listen, this is what we're going to strategize. Yeah? But in a co-parenting situation, because of the dynamic, who the child lives with, the type of bond, what happens, it tends to be much more difficult.
Bribe them.
Who, the mum? Bribe the mum.
Whoever?
What do you mean, like?
I'm thinking from...
listen, you get a Birkin if you just shut up and let me do it.
No. So I'm not thinking about the mum. I'm thinking from the dad's perspective. Sorry. And the reason why I say that is because, obviously, to a grammatically lesser extent, I think about the influence that I've had in my nephews' lives. And there's sometimes conversations I have with my sister and my mum who's like, they will call me and say, you need to have a conversation with him about this, about that. And then sometimes I know it's to a lesser extent, but there's ways of doing it. Like I'll come in either on this tip or the explanation tip or the bribery tip, and you dole out different strategies to curry favor or influence over the kid in an attempt to change their behavior. And I'm struggling to see how that can't work. So if you sit down with mum and say, okay, look, we need to get him doing extracurricular stuff. How do we go about doing that? Okay, so first and foremost, we need to acknowledge that he needs to know that we both think this is important and we agree. So it's gonna start with a sit down and it's gonna say, listen, you need to start doing something. Here's a bank of options. Which one do you like the most? Just acknowledge that it's non-negotiable. You pick one. Okay, boom, you've picked this one. You like basketball. Okay, so here's what's going to happen. Here's a basketball club that you're going to go to. I'm going to pick you up on Wednesdays. I'm going to take you there on Wednesdays. Then we're going to go after that and go Nando's or whatever. Whatever you want to do, that's going to be an incentive for you doing the thing that you don't initially want to do. And then on Saturdays, when you go to the games after that, then I'll go and take you in. I'll buy you rig out. I'll buy you boots. I'll buy whatever. There's incentives coupled with the action or the habit or the routine that is not necessarily
That all sounds
desirable.
extremely logical.
Surely that's the way to do it.
No, logically it is, but you've no, but you've 100%. But you have taken out the emotional element in that where he says, and I think this is why it's so important. Where Rena said, "But you've missed out the discord between the mum and the son, and that needs to be repaired before anything can happen." Because you've just said Monday, Saturday, what happens? Or what Wednesday, Saturday? What happens Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday?
Nothing.
When
They don't play sports. Then.
no, but
Nothing.
Sorry.
Not
remember, but the
Do what he
child,
wants.
the child is in the home
No.
with the mum, and if there is discord there, when you come to pick the child up on Saturday, because it's the mum who's going to have to supervise the emotional up and down of the child to make sure he is ready for Saturday. So that's why, seeing from both perspectives, I hear everything you're saying.
No, I understand.
But you've skipped the other 5 days and the emotional regulation and and that's not even thinking about what the mum's going through at work.
So what you're saying is that those two things are going to impact their dynamic in the rest of the week, and that needs to be taken into consideration.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand that.
All right, we've got good. So, we've covered. We've got another question. We've covered that one. It was acrimony, but now we were able to. All right. Nice one. Okay, cool. So hopefully, I think we addressed that one pretty well. But okay, what's the second question? Let's hear the second parent question. This one was a big one.
My child is being bullied at school. I have had several meetings with the head of year as well as speaking to the parents. My child finally snapped and they got into a fight last Friday. They were both suspended for 3 days, which I don't think was fair. There are no threats on social media. I wanted to get road, but I know it's not the best. Please advise.
I think there's now threats on social. Okay, cool. All right. From a SLT perspective, this is a parent. Yeah. How would you guys address this parent? How would you address this parent, and what advice would you give? Because I think this is something that happens quite regularly, where there's little kind of silly bullying. The head of year kind of deals with it. There's no real, and then it blows up in this fight, but we've not seen what the antecedents is, and it's not really been dealt with. So it'd be good to see. Would like to kick off on this one.
Okay, so I think there has to be a hard line and consistent response to violence, regardless of how it's got there. I think from a senior leadership's perspective or a school organizational perspective, you can never condone acts of violence because nobody wants to exist in a place where that is an option or that's something that's accepted. And I know that's difficult to hear from a parent's perspective because it's like, my kid was going through this whole time. How do you expect them to respond? I get that. I hear that. But both things can be true. We could have had failings from a perspective of not addressing the issues, or we can also have the line of we just can't have that. We can never exist in a place where people can feel it's acceptable to put hands on each other. That's not how we deal with issues. That's not how we resolve issues.
True. That said, because I'd be quite interested to speak to the head of year before the parent, if I'm honest. because
Yeah.
you need to know the backstory.
Yeah.
If it is that, this child has snapped because they've been constantly provoked, I'm not sure that it's fair that their suspension was the same length
I agree.
as the other party.
Can I-
Yeah.
can
So
I-
I agree with you that we have to toe the line and say,
Yeah.
we can't tolerate violence. But did they both need to get 3 days?
Yeah, agreed. If so go on, what were you gonna say, Zing?
No, I was going to say I agree. I just wanted to throw something in there. The person who was being bullied was a girl by a boy. Does that change anything or perspective? And she was being bullied for a while, for a good 6-month period. Does that change anything?
And then the girl snapped and thumped the boy up.
Yeah, I think she took. The tray.
Yeah,
The tray.
dinner tray.
Canteen.
Yeah, bust it over his head. Yeah,
Wrestling thing, WWE thing.
it's just yeah. Oh my god.
Don't make life.
Sorry,
What?
it's not
Why are
funny.
you talking about SmackDown?
No,
That's
it
uncalled
is
for.
WrestleMania. Go on,
Wow.
girl. No, I'm not condoning it. Sorry.
No, I just wanted.
Does
Does that add? Does that change the dynamic? For
It's
me,
so,
it does.
It's so
I'll
peak.
be honest. It does.
In what sense? So she doesn't get.
No, even if it was 2 boys, but
I now think that's deeper.
yeah,
If you've used a weapon to attack a kid, that's deeper to me. You can't it's peak, and I have to take responsibility as the school, to have not addressed this issue. We cannot have vigilante justice. Society can't operate on that, and we can never exist in a world where it's like, boy, what, go on?
and that addresses the thing where a lot of parents want to go down this road, where they want to go down the road. Yeah, I'm gonna get. Please, parents, don't ever. That is a complete losing
No one
battle
wins.
and argument.
Yeah, no one wins.
Yeah, nobody wins. Please never, as tempting as it may be, yeah, and whatever your backstory or background may have been in a former life, you're now
Pre-parent.
yeah, responsible parent, so on and so forth. Please don't ever go down that road, as tempting as it may be, because I've always seen it end terribly. And what happens is the school will no longer be on your side, no matter how much you may have the moral high ground. As soon as you decide to go down that road, you've finished. You're finished. So sorry, you were saying you'd like to speak to the head of year. Why?
Because if there are failings on the school's part in that they've not addressed it, and that's why it's now escalated to this point, that's a separate conversation that needs to be had, because prevention is always better than cure, and potentially this could have been avoided.
Yeah, I hear that. I don't think that changes the fact of where we are now, because let's say there were failings on the part of the school. Does that mean that the girl's actions are absolved?
No, not at all. But conversations still need to be had, because let's say the same thing happens in year 10
Yeah.
or in year 8. Like, we can't have
No,
this
I agreed.
repeated.
I hear you.
But to echo what you said to the parent, please don't go. It's always harder to do the right thing, isn't it? I would say, if anything, to follow the correct channels. Email the chair of governors if you need to, but don't take it to the.
So you would say the next.
Escalated.
You'd say the next step would be email chair of governors.
Nah, before head of year, it's always head teacher. Parents always, I need to speak to the head teacher.
Yeah, but the head teacher's already done the suspension. So I'm saying...
Yeah, so a member of SLT... So this would have escalated beyond the head of year to a member of SLT. They would have done the suspensions. Now the parent is saying, yo, hold on. Being bullied, What would we then advise is the next steps once that child returns after the 3-day suspension?
So what's the intervention plan in place? What is the fight happened?
Yep.
The sanctions happened to address the fight. The bigger thing is what Ree's saying, I think, is how do we address the root? How do we address the root cause of there being a fight, which is the bullying situation? The parent needs a clear plan from the school of how they're going to best support both children
And if
address that.
If the parent doesn't receive that, then what? Because I'll be honest, a lot of schools I've been in, because I don't want to do any
You
sweeping.
didn't see the side eye there.
No
He's about to say
sweeping
all
statements.
parents.
No
all
sweeping
schools.
statements. No.
Well done. Lessons
They
learned.
don't deal with bullying very well.
Weird.
Would you?
Weird.
I tend to find bullying isn't dealt with
Weird.
by schools.
And it's painful to say, but
Yeah,
boy,
brilliantly. They're not dealt with. So I'd see why a parent would want to go road because this goes on for a long time. You try and do the right thing by speak to head of year, blah 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 blah. So let me kind of flip this on its head then and put a question to you. If you are a parent and your child is being bullied, and we can sit here and accept that bullying isn't dealt with very well by schools, what is the best course of action then?
as a parent,
Yeah, as a parent.
Well, they said they've already spoken to the parents
No, they spoke to the parents of the
of the
other
other
youth.
child.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nothing.
So it almost sounds like they've not exhausted all options, but they have tried to sort this out.
We're stumped. You see how quiet it's gone?
so is because there's so much context surrounding it. So is the kid that attacked the other kid? How much is it impacting their mental health and well-being? Are they like?
Doesn't want to go to school.
So it's got to that level.
Yeah, now there are threats on social media. So, I mean, if the DSL's not involved, then they should be.
What's a DSL for RP?
Sorry, designated safeguarding lead.
So is this a safeguarding issue then?
Of course it is.
And would the school be culpable?
But that's why we need to speak to the head of year. Because you need to know what they've done to try to remedy
What measures
this.
have they put in place?
Did they, do a restorative meeting with the two children and say...
Restorative.
slap on the wrist, don't do this again. Have they done assemblies to say, you can't make whatever type of comments?
Behavior contract, like specific interventions with the two kids, the restoratives, behavior contract. How have you tried to like change the culture or impact the culture of the school by through the PSAT curriculum? How often you having assemblies on how we treat people, how we interact with people? How impactful was the anti-bullying campaign? How like duties and how the school operates, like logistical basis. How easy is it for kids to interact with each other unsupervised? Like, are there times where these kids are just round the corner in the playground where one kid's just getting terrorized? That like all of these things need to be understood and responded to from a school's perspective. If all those things have been exhausted, which I would be surprised if they are. What I think happens, or what tends to happen, is there are so many issues to deal with in schools. These things, the one or a number of interventions are put in place, but then it's not really substantial or meaningful. So the kid will be like, yeah, cool, I'll sign this contract, but then the kid will then interact with him in a negative way in the playground, and then because this additional things happen, the kid's like, if you snake, then it's going to be worse for you. Then all of these things are happening in the background that the kid's not even telling their parents and or the school for fear of retribution for quote unquote snaking. That's like one of the I find one of the biggest principles that kids follow is not being a snake, and I don't know how you mitigate that.
All right, just to kind of wrap it up now. So we were going to give maybe 3 points to the parent. It would be one. You said something about DSL. What would that be? What would you email the schools?
Email. I would say always email. Conversations are all well and good.
Yep.
But always email.
100%.
Yeah, the DSL. And
what about the ladder? Would you go to a local designated safeguarding officer? Would you go that far?
As the parent, probably not. I wouldn't. No.
Okay.
I'd go to the chair first.
This is a question more than a piece of advice. Sorry to kind of drag it out. Is there anything that you'd say to your kid as like strategies of dealing with it? I don't know this. I'm not saying this categorically, but like we all understand. Boy, it's a cold world out there, and I'm not to say that they should accept being mistreated or bullied or abused in any way. But is there some type of strategy you could give your kid to be like, boy, deal with it?
That's an interesting question.
because the way I would have told my youth to deal with it.
Remember, we're still on camera.
I know we're still on camera, and I'm being 100% honest. There are times, unfortunately, in life, yeah, where, and I'm an advocate of this, where you have to make people know what go on, innit? You have to stand, whatever that looks like. I'm not saying it has to take violence. It may be you're willing to stand up and look somebody in the face, yeah, and say, you know what, yeah, whatever, innit? Like, whatever you're on, I'm on. Like, I'm not taking it anymore. I'm not taking this anymore, and I'm not willing to take this. And you stand up and you make it clear. You may just be standing up and shouting, but you make it clear. I am not taking this anymore. Leave me alone.
Because what the parent cannot do and what the school cannot do is eradicate all adversity from that child's life.
Yeah.
So do you have to just acknowledge that to the
build
kid?
them.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it was someone talking about, remember seeing Rio Ferdinand on the bus, and like Rio Ferdinand was kind of out the ends. So he's from Peckham, but I think he was kind of a little bit further out. And then two boys tried to stick it on him, and he stood up and he said, "Listen, don't think because I'm on my own that
it won't go there.
that I'm not gonna have it. You with me? Like, he was with two girls, and he said, "Listen, don't think just because I'm on my own that I am not, like, I'm just gonna have it. It's not gonna go down like that." And he said, as soon as he said that, the dynamic and energy of the conversation changed. And sometimes you've got to teach your children to be confident and to speak up for themselves. That doesn't have to result in violence, but to let somebody know, I'm not gonna take a violation. And that's what I would encourage a lot of parents to do with their children, to build that confidence.
I can't say I disagree with that. Not to absolve the school at all, because of course I don't believe that. And I believe it's the obligation of the school to make sure environments are as safe as possible.
Yeah.
But, boy.
Yeah, I don't know. I think my approach would be slightly more flowery than that. You know, I do believe that schools are representative of adult life, because let's face it, you get bullies in the workplace. When they go into employment, they may very well have a manager who is bullying them. So even though you're big, it's still the same thing. I think in terms of strategies, it's that whole getting them to understand, you know me, I love a quote, the way that people treat you is a reflection of themselves and not you. You've got to kind of learn to brace things and not take it as gospel, you know. I remember seeing a quote once, and it was like, you mustn't take criticism from someone from whom you would never seek advice.
Yes.
Like that.
And I was just like, oh my gosh, that's so profound. Because why are you going to allow your child to believe whatever it is that the mean girls or whatever they're saying, you know, it's that building up of resilience, because they're still going to face it once they've left the school gates.
Regardless,
Yeah.
It's about instilling that confidence. I like the fact that you approached it from a speaking to the child perspective. But we're gonna wrap this one up. I hope you've liked this kind of new format of the questions. We're gonna try and do this as regularly as possible. But you know where to find us. Please make sure you're sharing this amongst your professional colleagues. Yeah. So like, share, subscribe, comment. Thank you to those of you who have commented. I'm not sure if we've got a few comments. You know, make sure you guys are in there as well. You know, I've had a few comments. So thank you so much, everybody, and we will see you on the next SLT podcast.